with the initial change, it's just been, I mean, a frustrating year with injuries, not just to Caitlin, but obviously to Caitlin. DB ultimately ends up leaving. And so that, you know, we already talked about how you need time to gel, you need time to build chemistry. So how frustrating has it been that the chemistry is just, it's like start, stop, start, stop.
Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle. But I think just at the start of the season too, like, you know, you have your start of the season meetings and you're talking, and for us it was about, listen, like, no matter what happens in the season, it's next woman up and you have to be ready. And I feel like obviously struggling with injuries, and then, you know, you sign people and then they leave, and it's like, listen, like, whoever's next, be ready to play, because it doesn't matter. Like, the games still keep coming. Like, you still have to be ready to compete. And that's why I was so happy, like, when we signed Ari.
Aliyah Boston just sat down with Sue Bird. And let's just say her comments about Caitlin Clark had everyone buzzing. From sharp truths to surprising praise to subtle reality checks, she covered it all. So tell me, what was your reaction when Aliyah spoke on the pressure of being Caitlin's teammate?
It is. Obviously, you never want people to get injured, but the reality is you have to have that mindset, and it gives other people opportunity. And then you hope ultimately you're all better for it when the injured players come back. But I'm curious, specific to Caitlin being on the floor, off the floor, and I saw you talk on your own podcast about like the spacing and how different it is. But when you're entering a game, like your mental prep, how does it change? Because it's two different systems essentially.
It is. Honestly, like, when C is on the floor, I'm like, listen, be ready to run. Be ready to get out. Be ready because she's looking. She's looking. She wants to play fast. Super early in the offense, and like we do that too as well here. But I think sometimes too now without her, like, we can get into like a little more half-court execution, make the defenses work a little bit harder, first side, second side, third side. And then I think when you have like Kelsey, when Kelsey's playing in transition, get that ball up to her
bouncy.
And make her
I've never seen anybody so bouncy.
Like,
Aliyah Boston just had an interview with Sue Bird, and her words about Caitlin Clark immediately grabbed attention. From blunt honesty to genuine praise to subtle reality checks, she didn't hold back. What was your reaction when Aliyah admitted the pressure that comes with being Caitlin's teammate?
So entering year 3 for you, just this year, as you said, it's a lot of change.
Yes.
You have a coaching change. You have it's a big free agency year for you guys. And really overnight, what that big free agency year was, or big change was expectations change.
Yes.
So you guys went from like this up and coming, where it's like you're getting to know each other, to now it's like, oh, they could win the whole thing. So what was the experience of essentially becoming, like, instead of being the hunter, you're now the hunted?
It's crazy, but I feel like it was definitely expected. Like, I think number one, like, just last year, everyone, like, when they see our name on the schedule, even though the year before we didn't win, like, we won 13 games or whatever it was, and it was like, okay, well, but then you added in Caitlin, right? And everybody's like, oh, like, they're gonna be this, and this. And now everybody's like, oh, you know what? We're gonna prove you wrong. Like, hell no. Like, that's how it is.
Boston's perspective hits different because she's living it. Caitlin Clark isn't just another rookie. She's been dubbed the future of women's basketball, ESPN's go-to highlight machine, and the league's biggest ratings draw. That spotlight doesn't dim. It follows everywhere, from social media feeds to packed arenas. And Boston sees it clearly. She said outright that Clark brings attention, pressure, and expectations to every single Fever game. Now, let's be clear. Aliyah Boston isn't some bitter teammate fishing for sympathy. She's an All-Star 2023 Rookie of the Year and was already the Fever's centerpiece before Clark showed up. But once Caitlin touched down in Indianapolis, the entire atmosphere changed. Suddenly, every missed shot became viral, every shaky possession sparked debate, and every win or loss was dissected like a playoff showdown.
It's like, yeah, like, they got us. For us, we always think like you have to approach every season with like, we're winning this whole season. So that was our mindset. And I think when you look at expectations, once again, expectations come from everyone outside. Because like in our circle, we know exactly what we want to do. We also understand that it's a process. We understand that new faces, new coaches, like different style of play for people joining us. It's like people need time to figure it out once again. But when you do figure it out, it's going to be scary. And I feel like that's what it was for us, and that was our approach. And we still like, listen, we are coming here to win this thing. Like, that's what it is, and that's not going to change no matter what.
And that's where Boston's honesty really hits. On Sue Bird's podcast, she made it clear the pressure isn't just on Clark. It spreads to the whole team. If Clark is cast as the savior, then every stumble turns into finger pointing. and teammates like Boston are left carrying that same heavy burden.
I felt like that was like amazing for us because obviously we couldn't predict C being out for this long at least, and so it's like having someone in that runs the point well, can call her own number, I think honestly has been like our biggest blessing. Obviously now with Bibbs, like she's coming in, she's able to stretch the floor. It's like, I think no matter what, everything is for a reason, right? And that's kind of our focus is, listen, like whatever happens, but whoever is here in our circle, listen, like we're here to hoop. Yeah. And that's how we're going to play. And so I feel like that's just been our approach. Like it hasn't been perfect. There's definitely been injuries here and there, but
Boston reminded everyone that she and Clark had never shared the court before this season. Yet the outside world expected instant perfection. Critics acted as if Boston should automatically know Clark's timing, vision, and tendencies without ever logging real minutes together. As Boston put it, asterisk, we weren't given that grace period of like getting to play with someone you've never played with. Asterisk, that one line summed it all up. Think about it. When LeBron James teamed up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami, it took nearly a full season before their chemistry truly clicked. Coaches, analysts, even players admitted that building rhythm takes time. But with Clark and the Fever, those expectations were flipped. Fans and media treated it like if Indiana wasn't a playoff team from day one, then Boston and everyone else were failing. Boston was clearly frustrated by that unrealistic narrative, but the way she addressed it spoke volumes. She didn't rant, she didn't blame Clark, and she didn't lash out. Instead, she calmly explained that the Fever are still learning to grow together. For a 23-year-old star, that kind of maturity is impressive, and it sets the tone for the entire team.
She is moving, she's making the right read, and it's like, listen, and she's scoring the ball at a very high level. And so I think, it's a little bit both, like once again, like when she's on the floor, like she's looking to get up, people can be like, listen, I don't need to outlet because I know once we rebound, we're getting it up. But I also think it, once again, it's like puts people on their toes because they're like, whoa, I need to find Kelsey in transition. I need to find Ari now. Like we got to find Sophie and Lexi knocking down threes. Like it's different, but I think everyone is once again finding their own rhythm, and that we just did a great job of.
The conversation soon shifted to how Boston's chemistry with Clark has evolved, and she didn't sugarcoat it. She admitted that the early months together were rougher than most people realized. There were passes she wasn't ready for, plays where she couldn't quite read Clark's intent fast enough, and of course, social media ran wild with it. A single bad possession clipped online with a sarcastic caption suddenly became proof that the Fever couldn't function together. But here's what made Boston's response refreshing. She didn't deny those struggles. She broke down why they happened. Early on, she was still learning Clark's rhythm, where her eyes were pointing, how her body positioned before a pass, when she was about to create something out of nothing. With time, Boston began to anticipate those moves without needing verbal cues. She described how, after enough reps, you don't need Clark to shout cut or screen. You just know, from the way her head lifts or how her feet shift, that the ball is about to fly your way. That, Boston emphasized, is how real basketball chemistry is built, not from magic, but from repetition and trust. Her point was almost comical when you think about it. Did fans really expect her to become Clark's perfect pick-and-roll partner after a single practice? Did they think every lob would immediately land on target like a highlight reel? That's not how sports work. Chemistry is messy. It's full of trial, error, and growing pains. Boston's explanation on Sue Bird's show made that clear. She understands the process. Even when outsiders don't, of course. The mistakes didn't just stay on film. They fed trolls. Boston revealed that people on Twitter have called her asterisk, the worst big I've ever seen. Asterisk, that's absurd, considering she's a #1 draft pick, rookie of the year, and already an all-star. She admitted that those comments are draining, not because she can't handle accountability, but because they pile on top of the immense pressure she already places on herself. Boston made it clear. She's fine owning up when things aren't perfect with Clark. But fans expecting flawless execution from day one, they're the ones who don't get it. What's striking is that Boston's honesty didn't come from a place of jealousy or frustration with Clark. In fact, she praised her teammate openly. She called Clark a phenomenal passer, highlighting how once she locks onto her eyes, she knows exactly where to move. That's not bitterness, that's admiration. Boston isn't dismissing Clark's talent. She's embracing it, while also asking fans to understand the learning curve. And she kept zooming out, framing it as bigger than just herself and Clark. The pressure doesn't land on one star. It spreads across the entire Fever roster. When Clark gets hyped as a savior, everyone else gets dragged into that spotlight too. That's the reality Boston wanted to highlight. Sue Bird, ever the sharp interviewer, kept nudging Boston for more, and Boston didn't retreat into cliches. She didn't give the robotic, "we're just focused on the next game" answers. Instead, she offered layered, thoughtful insights into what it's really like to balance hype, expectations, and team growth alongside a generational rookie. The honesty revealed both the challenges and rewards of building that partnership. Boston's words cut through the noise, reminding fans that growth takes time, and that sometimes the story behind the highlight is more important than the clip itself.
What is it about them that they're doing that?
It's just the best sports. Like, I don't know any other way to put it, but when it comes to us, when it comes to the Pacers, when it comes to sports in general, they show up and they're loud.
Yeah. No, being there definitely was just like a palpable vibe to like the whole city. I love that the city's kind of on the smaller side, so everything was convenient. You could like get around. But yeah, the fans really showed up.
Aliyah Boston recently sat down with Sue Bird, and the conversation turned into one of the most revealing interviews of her young career. Boston spoke with a level of honesty that cut past the usual cliches, giving fans a raw look at what it really feels like to share the floor with Caitlin Clark. From the start, Boston made it clear that she sees the value in Clark's presence. The extra eyes on the Fever don't just benefit Clark. They bring visibility to the whole roster. They boost the league. They push women's basketball forward. But Boston also pointed out the downside. With that spotlight comes an unforgiving microscope. Mistakes get magnified, and learning curves don't get respected. That's the double-edged sword of playing alongside a generational star. Here's the key, though: Boston never sounded resentful. If anything, she sounded motivated. She basically told Sue Bird, yes, the attention is heavy, but that's part of the job now. That's what made her take different. Most players, when asked about a superstar teammate, throw out generic praise and move on. Boston leaned into the question. She told people exactly what it feels like, owning the bumps along the way while reminding everyone that this is still a team, not a one-woman show. And Boston's perspective matters, because she isn't some role player on the fringes of the roster. She's an all-star, Rookie of the Year in 2023, and the centerpiece of Indiana before Clark even arrived. She fought her way from St. Thomas to the WNBA, playing in co-ed leagues, training outdoors in blazing sun, and working her way into elite basketball without the resources many American kids take for granted. That toughness shaped her. So when she talks about pressure, expectations, and growth, you know she's speaking from lived experience. That's why it's frustrating to see how media spins her words. Headlines try to create drama, making it sound like Boston is jealous of Clark or frustrated with her fame. But if you actually listen to the interview, you realize that's not what's happening. Boston isn't tearing Clark down. She's explaining the process, defending her own journey, praising Clark's talent, and asking for a little perspective from fans who expect perfection overnight. Sue Bird, who knows exactly what it's like to share the floor with superstars like Diana Taurasi and Breanna Stewart, gave Boston the perfect platform. The conversation felt more like two competitors trading truths than an interview. That trust allowed Boston to open up. You could hear the honesty in her tone. Boston admitted that the early months with Clark were rougher than expected. There were passes she wasn't ready for, plays where she didn't pick up on Clark's intent quickly enough. And because social media never misses a chance to stir things up, every bad possession was clipped, captioned, and turned into a meme. Suddenly, it wasn't just a misread, it was proof the Fever couldn't function. But Boston didn't dodge. She didn't make excuses. She broke down why it happened. Clark plays at a speed and with a vision that takes time to learn. Over the season, Boston started picking up on the cues: Clark's eye movement, the tilt of her head, the way she sets her feet before a pass. Eventually, Boston didn't need words or signals. Just one look told her where to move. That's when their connection started to click, and the Fever's offense began to look more fluid. Boston was quick to point out that this is how chemistry actually develops. Not from magic, not from instant highlights, from reps, trust, and mistakes. She even laughed at the idea that fans expected her to become Clark's perfect pick-and-roll partner after a single practice. That's not how sports work. Chemistry is messy, full of trial and error. Boston's explanation proved she gets that, even when fans don't. The honesty didn't stop there. Boston admitted that the outside noise hasn't always been easy to block out. She revealed that people on social media have called her the worst big I've ever seen. Think about how ridiculous that is. A #1 pick, Rookie of the Year, an all-star. Yet trolls online feel bold enough to tear her down. Boston admitted those comments are exhausting, not because she can't handle accountability, but because they pile onto the pressure she already puts on herself. Instead of lashing out, she reframed it. She told Bird that she can either let the negativity drown her or use it as fuel. Her tone made it clear she's choosing fuel. That level of maturity is rare for a player only 2 years into her career. What stood out most was how Boston balanced her critique with praise. She didn't dismiss Clark's hype. In fact, she reinforced it, calling her a phenomenal passer and highlighting the way she can read her teammates' movements before they even happen. That's not envy, that's recognition. Boston's message was simple. Yes, Clark is great, but give the Fever space to grow as a team. Bird kept nudging her toward the bigger picture, and Boston responded with perspective that went beyond basketball. She explained that Clark's spotlight lifts everyone. More fans, more coverage, more opportunity, but it also spreads pressure across the roster. When Clark is labeled the savior, every stumble gets pinned on her teammates too. That was the reality check Boston wanted people to understand. The timing of this interview made her words even more powerful. The Fever aren't the bottom feeders, they were during Boston's rookie season. With Clark in the mix, they're pushing into playoff contention. The progress is real, even if it doesn't always show up in viral highlights. Boston wanted to make sure people recognize that growth, that wins, chemistry, and confidence are proof of where this team is headed. She also tied it back to her roots. Growing up in St. Thomas, she didn't have indoor gyms, AAU circuits, or high-profile trainers. She played outdoors in heat, often in co-ed leagues where she was told not to embarrass the boys. That chip on her shoulder never left. It's why she doesn't crumble when faceless critics try to tear her down now. The same toughness that carried her from the islands to the WNBA is the reason she won't break under pressure. If anything, her words should make Fever fans optimistic. She isn't running from Clark's shadow. She's standing in it, shoulder to shoulder, making sure she's part of the bigger story. She reminded everyone this isn't Caitlin Clark's team alone. It's Indiana's team, built around multiple stars adjusting, improving, and grinding together. That honesty hits harder than any empty slogan about trusting the process. By the end of the conversation, you could tell Sue Bird respected how candid Boston was. She wasn't performing for clicks or pushing an agenda. She was telling the truth about the pressure, the chemistry, the struggles, and the growth. And that balance, mixing tough honesty with genuine praise, is exactly why this interview resonated. That Aliyah Boston laid it all out without filters. She admitted the pressure, explained the growing pains, and praised Clark's talent in the same breath. No drama, just reality. In an era where hot takes dominate, her words were a reminder that real athletes live in the gray area, where growth is messy, patience is necessary, and the spotlight shines on everyone, not just the superstar. And that's what makes this interview stand out.